Hello guys, so today I'm going to be working a stitch out of this book, and the stitch I'm working is called the Pin Tuck Ridge Stitch. At the time of the filming of this video, I totally lost the stitch markers that I used in the original tutorial, so I'm just going to say it now. We need 2 stitch markers for this pattern because it makes it easier to distinguish the rows. And I also lost my crochet hook, so I'm just showing you a different one. This is a 5mm. It's what I used in the tutorial for the worsted weight yarn. And this is a 4-weight worsted weight yarn. And so this is what the stitch comes out to looking like. It's all single crochets. It kind of looks like what you get when you do a half double in the 3rd loop, in the back loop, but this is a single crochet all the way through. It's giving me the look of a ribbing, but kind of curved. It's like it does this curve thing. But yeah, let's go to the next screen and see how to make this. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to be using a 5mm hook and a 4-weight worsted weight yarn. You can use whatever you have handy. I'm going to be chaining up any number of stitches, so you could do any amount of stitches that you want to make this stitch. So I'm just going to do a little chain. I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the 2nd chain and into each stitch across. So that's row 1. Make sure you have a stitch marker because it'll make it easier to find things, and you'll see why in a second. When I first did this stitch, everything was super confusing for me personally, so that's why I'm saying a stitch marker will be your friend. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn the work. And we're going to work in the front loops, and we're going to single crochet. So you have these 2 loops. This is the front loop and this will be the back loop. We're going to go in the front loop and we're going to single crochet into each front loop. And the reason we'll do this is we're going to use the back loops that we skipped to work into the next row. And now this stitch marker I'm going to use and place into the first stitch that we made of the row, because we want to make sure that we mark that so we know where we're working in row 4, because this is row 2. Row 3 will be shown to you in a second, not to get ahead of myself. So we're just single crocheting into the front loops only. Okay, you'll have like this situation happening here. That's fine. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to chain 1. We're turning the work, and we're going to work our single crochets into these skipped loops that we skipped in the first or in the second row. So we're going to work into the front loops of the two rows below, single crochet. Now, I think it's good if we were to use another stitch marker. Okay, hear me out. In the first stitch we made, right there, we're just going to keep working our single crochet in the front loops to the rows below across. And I'm going to show you why in a second. I feel like you're going to understand why I put stitch markers there. Okay, so this is my 8 single crochets. Now, if I did not have stitch markers in this piece, it would be super confusing. This is what it looks like. It's kind of giving me letter T vibes. But if I were to chain and turn, it's possible I would have went into this foundation chain if I didn't know any better, which is what I did the first time I did this. So I had to, yeah, I had to think about that. So this is row 4. We're chaining 1. I'll turn the work, and we're going to single crochet into this marked row, which is the previous row. So technically this is row 2. We're going to work into the previous row. And we're just single crocheting into each loop across. See, we marked this stitch, and it's good that I did, because 2, 4, 6, 8, this is the beginning of the row on the other side. It would have been easy for me to just continue crocheting and not realize that I was at the end of the row, unless I counted each stitch. Okay. So I'm moving my stitch marker up, and I'm just going to continuously mark the first stitch of each row, just because it makes it a little easier for me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, we're going to turn the work, but we aren't going to work into this marked stitch that's over here, because this is the row that's going to be a raised bump. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. This is technically row 2. We're not working in. What we are going to do is we're going to work in row 4. So for row 5, we chained, turned, and we're just single crocheting across into each of these stitches. This is the last stitch, the marked stitch, and I'm going to move the stitch marker up when I'm gonna do the next row. Okay, so this is rows 1 through 5. Already we see that we have this raised ridge. Now rows 2 through 5 are the repeat for this pattern. So I'm going to go back to row 2. We're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're single crocheting into the front loops. And I'm going to mark off the first stitch that I made. Sorry. So we're going to continue front loop, single crochet across. And if you feel like you need to count your stitches, you should do that. It's just, that's why I'm using a stitch marker, you know? So I'm moving this stitch marker up when I complete my next stitch. So this is row 2. Now we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to do a row 3 repeat. So we're dropping down to the skipped stitches, and we're going to work a front loop single crochet, because these are technically the front loops of 2 rows down. Like I said, I'm moving the stitch marker to the first stitch that I created, because it's just going to help you kind of distinguish between the stitches, especially in a pattern like this where it can get kind of confusing. Speaking from experience. So we're going to continue to front loop single crochet for row 3 repeat. And this is the last stitch. Yep. And now I have this other raised bump. Okay, so row 4, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to insert into this marked stitch and single crochet. And I'm going to move the marker again to the stitch I just made, and I will single crochet into both loops across for row 4. Okay, now for row 5, which is the last part of the repeat, we'll chain 1, turn the work, and just single crochet into both loops across. No drop downs, nothing front loop, nothing like that, just single crochet into each stitch across until you reach the stitch marker. And yep, that is the repeat for this pattern. You will just continue rows 2 through 5, and I'll timestamp everything so you can bounce backward and forward through this rows. So what would you make with this stitch? Really give me ideas, because I am drawing a blank on what to make with this. It kind of looks like a brim for a hat. It looks like it could be a pumpkin. It could be, I don't know. This is an interesting stitch though. Well, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Thank you. Bye-bye.